Getting it
Oh, very. We'll go ahead.
November, December, this snow. Or rain.
Okay.
Wish it was snow. Which camera are we glancing at? Sorry, I'm like presenter mode. Oh.
Set of shade of gesture. You got it. Just look at the blue.
I'm not looking at it, but I no.
We're gonna swim, bike and run in the corner sun. We're gonna swim, bike and run in the corner sun. Cause it's breakfast with Bob.
Thank you, Pancho Man. Welcome back to Day 3, Breakfast with Bob from Kona and Huggo's on the Rocks. My name is Bob Babbitt. We're brought to you by Masters Spas, SFuels Go Longer, HOKA Let's Fly, deboer wetsuits, Forum Smart Swim Goggles, Zoot Sports, original triathlon brand, Quintana Roo, Premium Plus Sports, and our Challenge Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, Olympic silver medalist, Heather Fell, who also is one of the top commentators at Global Triathlon Network, GTN. How you doing, Heather?
Hi, Bob. Thank you so much for having me. I don't often get introduced as my previous sport. It's normally just GTM presenter. So thank you for that.
No. I'm talking a silver medal in Beijing, and then World Championships, gold, silver. I mean, we're talking riding a horse, shooting, stabbing, all that cool stuff.
I mean,
right?
careful how you word that.
But talk about what pentathlon and how you got into it.
Okay, yeah. So modern pentathlon, the word kind of deceives it because it's not particularly modern. It's over 100 years old, and it came from this military background, like you say. So it was actually sort of defending yourself and attacking. So it is sword fighting, or fencing as it's known, shooting, which has evolved. It used to be rifle shooting, then moved to pistol shooting. It's now laser shooting. We could talk about that all day.
Yeah.
It's the two core sports for me are the running and the swimming, which brought me into triathlon, and then also horse riding, which was my sort of the thing I did.
That's what you did going in.
That's what I loved, yes.
Yes. And so getting into was this something you had in that competition when you were young?
I mean, I was a swimmer from a very young age, and I had a swimming scholarship, but also my parents were jump jockeys, so riding was something that I just did. And I actually wanted to be a swimmer and realized I was not quite good enough, and found myself, I think as a lot of people find their way into triathlon, that's how I found my way into modern pentathlon, that actually if I put 5 sports together, I could be good enough.
So Kate Allenby, that was the role model?
Yeah, most certainly. So we're quite similar to triathlon, that the first time for the women, modern pentathlon came into the Olympics in Sydney in 2000. The men had had the Olympics since 1912, but we got in Sydney, and in Great Britain we won a gold and a bronze. And the bronze medalist, her parents happened to live down the road from me and were teaching me to shoot when I was aged 8. So I had a role model already there.
That is so cool. And so after 2 golds and silvers, 2003 World in Athens, that you nearly quit. You were pretty much out of the sport.
Yeah, so 2003 I won the Junior World Championships, which was like, for me, this massive eye-opener into where I could maybe go in the sport. But obviously in Great Britain, we have so many strong athletes, a little bit like you see in triathlon now. To get to the Olympics, if you get to the Olympics, you've got a chance of a medal because it's so hard to get there for our nation. So actually, in Athens, I went to watch. I was still too young, and that was amazing. And after that, I came and started training full time. I finished my degree in physiotherapy and came to train full time, and my body wasn't ready for it. And I had injury after injury, and basically I lost my funding and I was taken off the program. And
so no funding, nothing whatsoever.
No, so I had no funding, and I was basically told to go back home and get a job. This was like 2 years out from the Olympic Games, and I just felt like I needed to give myself 1 year, and that was my cap, more to my parents who were letting me live at home for free. So I just said, look, in a year's time I'll go and get a job if I haven't made it in pentathlon, and within that year I managed to qualify for the Olympics basically. So it was a kind of crazy journey, a crazy roller coaster for a few years.
So you can relate to a lot of our athletes. Actually, when we were just interviewing, she's still a flight attendant,
right?
I
was chatting to her.
I love that.
Great, yeah.
And you're working as a swim coach at a bar, a physiotherapist. You're doing all of that plus training.
Yeah, you've done your research, Bob. I like it.
So the fact that you were doing that, all the hard work, probably made you better prepared.
I really think it did. And, coming from a swimming background, I was used to swimming 10 times a week, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. So hard work wasn't a problem, and it was something that I liked to do. And actually, I had to drop some of my gym conditioning. I had to prioritize what I was going to do because I had to earn enough money.
You didn't have the time.
I had to earn enough money to be able to go to the competitions, but I also had to prioritize what training I knew worked for me. So I kind of self-managed, but I still had very much strong coaches that helped me towards that. And I guess it drove me more, and it also gave me that relation of like, there is real life out there. And even though I'm in my bubble of sport, I go and work in the pub, and then I realize this, other people have so many different problems in their lives, and that I found very refreshing to me to go, I'm so privileged to still be able to try and do this sport.
I bet it meant more to you to get to the Olympics because you pretty much did it on your own, right?
Yeah, it really did. I mean, my coach back home was a massively behind me, but I actually worked in the pub the Friday before the Friday I competed. So we flew out on the Monday to Beijing, so we went out late. And I just still wanted that normality and that kind of keeping my feet on the ground and just sort of the wonder of going to the Olympics. It made it more like, wow, I've made it by just getting here. So once I got there, it was just, I could do the performance of my lifetime.
And a lot of times when you go to the Olympics, it's, well, do I just stay in my room and stay away from people, or this probably might be my only time. I'm going to see every event there is. I'm going to live the Olympic life because I earned it.
Yeah. I mean, our coaches were trying to sort of control us, and our performance director was, we needed to obviously get over the jet lag, which was 8-hour time difference, so a bit less than coming here, but
right.
It was a big one. So we had to get out and about, but also my friend, I was competing with my friend, she's a fellow competitor, but we were just there going, we're at the Olympics. This is amazing. We've got to go and say hello to people. We've got to go and get selfies. And we were there chatting, and I remember chatting to some of the rowers because our event was at the end of the Olympics. They'd all finished, and they were like, oh, girls, how did you get on? You look really happy. And we're like, we haven't competed yet. And they thought, they were like, wow, you're so relaxed. And like, oh, so, have you been before? We're like, no, this is our first Olympics. And we were just there, like, with our eyes wide open, taking it all in. And
getting the medal.
Yeah, I mean, that was the icing on the cake.
When you look back at that, again, because of all the hard work, all the dedication that you put in, being dropped, getting that silver medal had to be just one of the high moments of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't reflect on it very often because it does sort of, give me goosebumps, and I feel it's, you're always, as an athlete or as a person, you're always looking forwards. But for me, it was more like for those people that did believe in me, and there were quite a lot of them. And one of my old swimming coach, he'd coached many Olympians. He coached Sharon Davis, Mark Foster at various points, and back in the 80s. And he'd always said to me that one day, Heather, you will make it. And I never dared ask him what that meant. And I didn't make it as a swimmer. So I thought I'd failed him. I didn't make it as a swimmer. And I tried so hard and I worked so hard. And when I remember coming back, and he'd retired by then, but his son was coaching me. And he just said to me, Heather, I knew you'd do it. And
That's so cool. That is so cool. Then you move to triathlon. You retired January 2014, took up Ironman, second 30-34, qualified to come here. 36 in your age group. Pretty fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was all crazy because I just loved sport, obviously, and I wanted something different. And I just got into cycling and loved cycling, rode my bike just all the time, and found this escapism through it. And then it was all, I would say, one day I'll do an Ironman. I hadn't run a marathon before, so I actually did get a coach. I thought, I don't know how to run a marathon. So I did it in South Africa at my first Ironman, and just loved that event. So I don't know if many people have been there, but South Africa love their sport, don't they?
Yes, they do.
I have got friends out there, so I thought I'll make a holiday, and I went out and just had a great time. And I probably shouldn't admit this, but I didn't really know what Kona was, which is awful. I think I might lose my job at GTN. And my coach messaged me when I finished, and he's like, "You might have qualified for Kona." I was like, "What does this mean?" And anyway, we had to very quickly decide whether I wanted to take the slot, and I did. And then I got the job at GTN a few months later, and I said to them, please can I have some holiday in October because I'm going to this race in Hawaii? And they were like, oh, well, you'll go with work. So like within a few months of doing my first Ironman, suddenly I'm off working for Global Triathlon Network, coming out here to race and work. It was all a bit of a whirlwind. That
is so fun. And the experience, so what's cool about that, when you've had the experience of racing the course, it's a lot easier to interview people because you got street cred.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. And I didn't find it, smooth sailing either. It was after, I think, my coming in and sort of feeling like I'd so loved my first one, I almost maybe put a bit of expectation, but also working, I was very privileged to get to come here with work, but it meant I was exhausted at the same time. And, I wasn't coming here to try and win or anything, so it didn't matter, but it just made me realize like how hard an Ironman is, and I think I'd forgotten after the first one.
Well, and when we look back at triathlon and we look back at London, it's probably one of the premier games ever in the sport. And with London being, when London was accepted as the Olympic venue, all of a sudden a lot more money goes into, because if you're inviting people to a party in your home, you want to make sure you look good, right? All of a sudden there's Alistair and Johnny Brownlee, and a lot of investment went into the triathlon side of it. And watching Johnny and Alistair get the gold and bronze, that had to be so special.
Oh, it really was. And, triathlon wasn't huge in our country, and they really have just sort of brought it to the fore. And now it's the women that are doing it as well. I mean, the women are so strong. And obviously Alex Yee, and it's just wonderful to see. And it's great, working in triathlon. And I know we're a global channel, but we are based in the UK. So it's really cool that, the sport is growing so much. And then it's still this interesting disparity between getting people, watching the Olympics to then maybe coming and doing the long course stuff. And it's almost like two different
totally different
events
worlds.
and two different types of, of clientele and of viewers. But yeah, I mean, London just did so much for sport in the country overall and participation, and that's something that for me is just so important. Hence why I still do sport. I think sport gives us so much more than the physical benefits, and I think that's what London really brought, is just people realizing the psychological, the mental benefits of getting out and doing exercise. And
right.
I know I've gone off on a tangent, but I feel London really brought that to us.
No question. And the cool part is when you look at from an Ironman perspective, someone like a Chrissy Wellington and what she brought to the table is just that the class, right? And she was like a meteor. 2007, 2011, gone. But the impact she made, and a number of people, I'm guessing, got into the sport because of her, had to be a massive.
Yeah, I mean, she is one of those just famous names outside of the sport that people know of, Chrissy Wellington.
Right.
And the first time I met her, it was a bit like, oh my gosh, can I go and say hello to Chrissy Wellington? She does have legendary status, obviously. And
she does.
Yeah, it's done a huge amount. And you speak to so many people who've still now got into it because of her, and so many women as well, which I think is great. The more women role models we can have.
So what is your feeling about this being an all-women's event? And I mean, my gut is, I loved being in Nice. I thought that was great. I love being here. I love the feel. I think it's mellower. It's cool having all women here. I do want as a sport, I love everybody together. I just think the camaraderie, and it's we are all triathletes, and being at the same place last year I thought was the ultimate. Women racing one day, men racing the other day, and everybody just enjoyed themselves.
Well, I mean, I haven't been here for 5 years, so it's hard to remember what it was like 5 years ago. And, I heard obviously lots and watched lots from last year. For me, right now, I'm just loving the focus and the attention on the women.
Yes.
And I feel like that is not diluted. And it's so, because it's the last World Championships of the year, all eyes are now on it. And maybe Nice was sort of woke people up of, Ironman World Champs, oh no, I missed it. Now it's the women. So I do miss having everybody here in that family aspect, because I think that's the one thing about triathlon. It is a big family, but I still think it could be a really, strong kind of case in the media for women, and hopefully it's getting attention from people outside of the sport because it's newsworthy. People are, what's going on out there? Why is it women only? So hopefully that's a positive as well.
I think from a pro perspective, a lot of times when you've got the men and women racing together, you see the top women, but you don't see the women back in 8th, 10th, 12th place who are riding their way through the field, and they're like, oh, here she comes, and she's in 6th place or whatever. You don't see them till the end. I think with being an all-women's race, you're going to really see the entire race play out.
Yeah, I think so. I can't wait to watch the race. And I think, the fact of the incredible depth we have in this field, the race is going to do its talking itself. It doesn't, it's not going to be about, it's only the women, is it a whatever race. It's just going to be an incredible race, and all the attention will be there, and it won't be having to flick to see, who's winning the men. All the men have just crossed the line. Hang on, what's happening in the women's race? We can just focus on the women all day long, and that's great.
So being here now, after being away for a number of years, are you anxious to potentially do this again?
Do you know, it's funny coming back out here, and we drove up to Harvey and been filming with the Zwift Triathlon Academy guys, and I went and did a little bit of the swim, and it just makes me realise I've forgotten how hard and
how far it is.
Harvey
is like you're I'm leaving the country.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I think I've just sort of forgotten that. I run a lot, and I can run ultras, but when it comes to oh my gosh, I've got newfound respect coming back out here actually of just how hard an Ironman is, and maybe one day I'd love to come back and race, but I'm enjoying being a spectator and working here.
I love it. Heather, thank you for taking time. Such a treat to get to actually talk story for a while with you.
Well, a treat. It's all mine. Thank you so much, Bob, for having me.
Heather Fell has been our guest. Everybody, Poncho Man, take us out.
We're gonna swim, bike, and run in the corner sun. We're gonna swim, bike, and run in the corner sun, 'cause it's breakfast with Bob.